All right. Um, this is the January 7th, 2025 open meeting of the Hopkinton Conservation Commission being conducted remotely consistent with an act extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. The new law authorizes all members of a public body to continue participating in meetings remotely. The open meeting law's requirement that a quorum of the body and the chair be physically present at the meeting location remains suspended. For this meeting, the Hopkinton Conservation Commission is convening by video conference via Zoom app as posted on the town's web meeting calendar and the Conservation Commission agenda identifying how the public may join. Additionally, the meeting may also be broadcast by HCAM through one or many of its channels or platforms. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that others may be able to see you and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. Supporting materials that have been provided to the members of the commission for this meeting are available on the town's website. This meeting will feature public comment. After commission members and staff have discussed each project application on the agenda, the chair will open the discussion to public comment. Members of the public who wish to speak are asked to identify their name and address. 3 minutes will be afforded for each public comment. Each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted via roll call of the members present. So I will now confirm which commission members are present. Ed?
I'm here.
Jim?
Here.
Ted?
Present.
Matt?
Present.
And myself, I am present. Tonight we have absent Janine and Heather. I'll now confirm staff that are present. Judy?
Present.
Anna?
Present.
And Joe?
Present.
All right, thank you.
I just requested screen sharing.
Yes. Should be all set there, Judy. If you want to throw the agenda up, that's great.
Got it. All right. Can you see that?
Yes. All right, so I'll just point out to folks on the call, we've had a few things canceled on the agenda tonight. So the Flores 9 Chamberlain Street notice of intent for an addition pool applicant has requested a continuation to January 28th, and the continued hearing of Hayden Row 129 Hayden Row notice of intent for the roadway widening has also asked to be continued to January 28th. In addition, the Wall Street development, 12 North Mill Street informal discussion is also continued to January 28th. So none of those will be discussed tonight. All right. So with that being said, we don't have any documents for review. We do have the draft minutes for review. Did everyone get a chance to take a look at those? And does anyone have any comments on the October 8th, 2024 minutes? No?
No comments on my end.
No comments. Okay. So with that being said, can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
I'd like to make that motion.
All right, can I get a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor, Ed,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Ted,
Aye.
and Matt.
Aye.
All right, I'm also an aye. Right, all set there. Next up, we have Snow 80 Pine Island Road request for certificate of compliance. Judy or Anna, do you want to give us a briefing on this one?
Sure. So this was a COC to close out a single family home construction by Lake Maspinock. Can pull up the site plan. Not a huge amount of comments from Lucas. So most of the erosion control barriers had been removed already, and the rest can be removed as the site is looking stable. Joe reported that there was a tree taken out beyond the approved erosion control boundary line, although the applicant did plant native plants in the area that I don't believe were a part of the original order, so those might have kind of canceled that out. Joe did note a pile of soil that he requested to be removed, although I spoke with the applicant who said it may have been vegetated and stable, so I'll let the homeowner speak to that if he's on the line. And Joe was also unable to find information on the nature of the foundation drains, whether those were perforated to the original order conditions. So if the homeowner has any additional information on those, that would be much appreciated. But overall, pretty straightforward, nothing too glaring. So if either Joe or the homeowner has anything to add, please feel free.
Do we have a homeowner on the line? No. Joe, did you want to elaborate on any of those comments?
I think Anna covered them pretty well. Like she mentioned, I wasn't sure if the foundation, what was done for foundation drains. There is, crushed stone kind of put around the foundation of the house under the drip line of the roof. I didn't see any downspouts going to any type of drywall or anything. And there were a number of plants along the top of the bank, shrubs that were put in. I think the homeowner came out and said he spent a fair amount of money on vegetation to put in along the bank, and everything I saw was native, so it looked appropriate.
Okay.
No major concerns.
No major concerns. Okay. So in your opinion, the additional plantings, would likely be what the commission has approved in the past for tree replacement?
Yeah, I didn't count the number of plants, but there's probably at least 10 shrubs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone on the commission have any questions or comments on this? It seems straightforward to me. Looks pretty stable here. Anyone from the public have any questions or comments on this application?
Melissa, I was slow to unmute myself. I just have a question for you and Matt, I think. Are you worried about the question about the roof runoff and drains around the house?
I think, Joe, were you saying that the question was, you saw roof drains?
I did not see roof drains.
Okay.
So I don't know what was put in as far as foundation drain. I think the condition noted foundation drains were to be installed and that were to be perforated beyond a certain distance from the house. So there's no way of knowing that, but it wasn't observed, I think, during construction. But the crushed stone around the drip line, kind of indicates that there may be drainage under that crushed stone to pick up the runoff from the roof.
And there's no, do you have any gutters?
No downspouts.
There's no downspouts, no gutters. Yeah. Okay. I think my thought would be that, the crushed stone around the edge with the, just running off the roof and having time to infiltrate there would be okay in my opinion.
Okay.
And I guess the other thing would just be, the couple of items that were noted on the engineer statement regarding a few things that were done that were not on the approved plan. The shower that you're looking at, that existing shower, I guess, was not on the approved plan. The crushed stone apron that we're just talking about, stepping stone walkway, a landing, and another step in the walkway. along the house. I think they're all within the limit of work of the proposed, project.
Okay. I think I'm okay with this one.
Okay,
If there's no other comments, can I get a motion to close out this or approve this certificate of compliance and get signatures from Anna or Judy?
So moved.
second,
All right, all in favor, Ed,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Ted,
aye.
Matt,
Aye.
and I am also an aye. All right, that's all set. All right, so what are we at? 7:12. If we have those on the line for the townwide vegetation management plan, I think we could probably go to that new hearing. And this is one I need to read. Grab my page. All right. Hopkinton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, January 7th, 2025 at 7 p.m. virtually online to hear all persons interested in a request for determination of applicability filed by Hopkinton DPW for a vegetation management plan. Location is townwide easements and right-of-ways. Do we have someone on the call? Carrie, I see Carrie. Yep.
So I'm here, with Carrie Reed, Director of Public Works, and I have with me Stephanie.
Hi, Stephanie Hansen with CEI.
So I'm just gonna do like a quick intro, and then I'm gonna turn it over to Stephanie to kind of go over the technical piece of it. So this is for a vegetative management plan for right-of-ways in town. And so the biggest question that we've been getting is why, why do we need this? So the Department of Public Works is responsible for maintaining all the roads, sidewalks, bike lanes. And this will help us improve and give us another tool for maintaining those areas, for safety, for aesthetics, for operations and maintenance and all that good stuff that we're required to do. And then the other question is, why now? We've never had this before. Why do we need it now? And the reasoning is right now we have a hard time keeping up with the demand. So we have a big backlog, especially in the summertime, for resident requests or just different work orders that come in for vegetative control, cutting back weeds around a corner so people can see when they're trying to drive, turn around a road, requests to remove poison ivy from sidewalks so kids don't get a rash, removing weeds that are overgrowing and kind of forcing people, not forcing them, but if they're walking on a sidewalk, they pushed out to the road because the weeds are kind of taking over. And then a ton of requests for the new downtown area about weeds growing up around telephone poles and the roadways, around sidewalks, retaining walls, things like that. So one of that is to help out with that. And the other reason of why now is that the town's grown so much. So we have more sidewalks, we have more roads. And like I said, we just can't keep up doing it all manually. And I'm not sure if it even makes the best sense operationally wise or even safety wise. So we are coming now today with this plan to give us another tool. And I also wanted to point out that the town did have a vegetation management plan. I was looking up earlier that was approved from 2014 to 2018. It just wasn't implemented. So this is not the first time that the town has looked at this. So that's my little intro. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Stephanie to go over kind of the NOI and all those nitty-gritty details.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Carrie. Again, my name is Stephanie Hansen. I'm with Comprehensive Environmental. And we worked with Carrie to pull together two plans. One of them is a vegetation management plan. This is a 5-year plan. This is what was submitted through the RDA process where we're looking for a negative determination. And there's also for information purposes, there's a yearly operational plan that we also included. And so this is a 1-year plan that's updated and reviewed on an annual basis. Both of them were prepared to be in compliance with the Mass Department of Agricultural Resources. So these plans are only to be used for right-of-ways. These are MDAR, which is short for the Mass Department of Agricultural Resources, has specific regulations for their right-of-ways only. So these plans were developed specific to those regulations. Both of them are currently in review by MDAR right now. The goal, as sort of Carrie went over, is to manage target vegetation while protecting sensitive areas in the environment. We also hope to reduce herbicide application amount and frequency over time with this plan, and then also comply with regulations. So we generally list 4 different types of target vegetation. They could include hazard vegetation, and this is vegetation that can impede movement, be an issue with public safety. This is vegetation that can obscure signs, cause winter icing because of shading. It also targets noxious vegetation like poison ivy. Detrimental vegetation. So this is vegetation that can compromise infrastructure. And then it also includes invasive vegetation. So Japanese knotweed, Phragmites, that type of thing. So the plan is written to target those 4 types of vegetation, and there's an explanation in there on that. It doesn't necessarily mean that Carrie is going to target all of those. I think she has some very specific problem areas in mind. In general, the plans outline both mechanical and chemical management of the vegetation. And then it also gets into sensitive area restrictions, and these are in table format in both of the plans, and that's based directly on the MDAR regulations. The plans also provide guidelines for weather conditions during application. There's a remedial plan in there to address any type of spill. There's a monitoring plan and a daily log. And it also gets into applicator qualifications. So for example, whether the applicator is town staff or a contractor, they need to pass a core license exam through MDAR. They need to work for several years under that core license, and then they need to pass an additional exam, which is their Category 40 right-of-way exam. And that allows them to then oversee any type of herbicide application. This right-of-way program limits herbicides allowed regardless of labeled use. I know that the town does have a number of schools and daycares with IPM programs that have been approved by MDAR. This is a completely separate program. I'm actually not that familiar with it, although I did look through a couple of the plans for the schools, and the herbicides that I saw listed on there are actually not allowed for use within right-of-ways by MDAR. MDAR has a very small list of herbicides that are allowed to be used in the right-of-way. Currently, both the VMP and the YOP are within a 45-day public comment period. Written comments for the VMP are due by January 24th. And written comments for the YOP are due on February 7th. Both of these have been published in the statewide environmental monitor, and that starts the 45-day comment period. Sort of along those same lines as far as process, after the public comment period ends, or actually towards the end of it, I should say, MDAR holds their own public hearing. That's also on January 24th at 10 a.m. And there's a Zoom link available. And I think there was a sheet as an appendix to one of the plans that has that link in it. So again, that's on January 24th. Once that's completed and the public comment period is deemed complete, there is a right-of-way commission independent review. And this is a statewide committee that reviews the VMP and provides comments. Last time I looked there, the committee does change occasionally, but there are generally 8 commission members on this review committee, and they're made up of Mass DEP, Mass DCR, UMass Extension. There's a weed scientist that is part of that committee. There's a representative from the Mass Railroad Association. There's an environmental representative, a utility representative, someone from Mass DOT, and an applicator representative. So they provide us comments. We do a red line markup, submit it to MDR for their review and hopefully approval. Once the plans have been approved, there is another public notification process. First, there's a 21-day written notification, and these notifications are sent to MDR, the local Board of Health, your public water supplier or water superintendent, your Board of Selectmen chair or town manager, and also the Conservation Commission. And in addition to the 21-day written notification prior to the start of the application, there's a 48-hour newspaper notice in the local newspaper. Finally, at the time of application, MDR will generally coordinate a visit on the first day of the application, basically to ensure that everyone has the correct licenses, all documentation and approvals are on site, and generally they'll actually collect a sample of the herbicide mixture for laboratory analysis to make sure that it's in compliance with what is indicated in the plan. So that's pretty much all that I had. I'm happy to try to answer any questions that you might have.
Yeah, I just want to make one more comment before we go to questions. In addition, I reached out to the Hopkinton Sustainable Green Committee because they've always been very concerned about any kind of use of herbicides, pesticides on public property. So I talked with them a little bit, and in addition to the list that Stephanie talked about of who we would notify, I agreed that like whenever we share information or the 21-day notice that we'd also include the Hopkinton Green Sustainable Committee. I think that's the right order, in addition to informing the Conservation Commission, the Board of Health, and the rest of the group.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that presentation. I do have, okay, so I have one question just to kind of, I guess, kick off questions. I'm sure there'll be a couple. So when you're applying herbicides, there's the notification to those various groups. Are there any notifications to property owners or anything that people can say, kind of like the mosquito spray, I'm thinking? Or is it just, they would be notified during that 21-day process and through, reviewing the plan now as it's in a comment period?
Yep, there's that. And then there's also the 48-hour newspaper notice.
Okay.
That goes in, Yep, that goes into, so I say 48 hours, it has to be published in the newspaper at least a minimum of 48 hours before. It could be a week before. I mean, we generally like to allow at least a few more days than just the 48 hours, but that's the regulation calls for a minimum of 48-hour notice in the newspaper.
Okay. Gotcha.
And it has to be a certain size as well. It can't be like in, one font. It has to be, I think it's like 2 by 3 inches, or there's specifications and the regulations as to how large it needs to be, and then what section of the newspaper.
Okay. I'll open up to other commission members for questions, comments. Actually, before I do that, Joe, you had some comments on this.
I did have a couple of comments. I think I did have a chance to review the responses today. And I
Okay.
think the comments were pretty well addressed. I had pointed out just on the map that was provided, I thought there were a few things that were missing that should have been added, and those included potential vernal pools, the outstanding resource water data layer, from Mass GIS. And also, it looked like some of the, DEP mapped wetlands, were not on the original map, and it looks like all those items have been added to the map. Just to make it a little clearer, where potential resource areas or potential sensitive areas, may be, in an area that they're going to be proposing to work. I also just noted that, the Wetlands Protection Act exemption that, is referenced in the application is for work in buffer zones. If any work was to occur in, or proposed in a resource area, that exemption would not apply, but there is another exemption, in the WPA for, this type of work within the resource area, only if it meets certain conditions. I would imagine if that was the case, that they would come before the commission, to get that clarified. As was noted, the vegetation management plan is now being reviewed. I think, it's in the hands of, the Department of Agricultural Resources. And believe that the only thing that, is needed, for the WPA, regulation is, a determination of applicability from the Conservation Commission.
Okay.
And I just also recommended that any work that is proposed that comes before the commission is field verified, because these, scale and accuracy of the map that's being provided, would require field verification of any wetland boundaries and sensitive areas.
So you're recommending, Joe, that be field verified at the time, or like when the locations are chosen
Correct.
by the town?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Carrie, is the town amenable to that?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Joe. Anyone, on the commission have questions, comments on this plan? And the RDA process that's being requested for it?
Hi, this is Tim. I just want to say that this is a great plan. Not looking at all the finer details, but to go forward with a plan for invasive control is fantastic. I appreciate all of your efforts over there at DPW, Carrie especially.
All right. Anyone else? Ed, do you have anything?
This is a wicked sensitive thing for me.
I know.
The whole aspect of invasives, that open space has struggled with and in our properties, and having to fall back to using chemicals as the only way to deal with knotweed. What I would like to see, and I don't know how to accomplish this, is an education program. Like yours truly, stupid person that I am, there's a stand of knotweed not too far from our house, and I go out every single week and I cut it to the ground, and I will say that the amount of knotweed I see over several years is less, so it does apparently discourage it. And bittersweet, there's plenty of places where bittersweet is up in trees and private property, and if the property owners were made aware of the issue, maybe they might get up there and cut it off. So I'd like to see, as much as I struggle with the use of herbicides, I would like to see part of this be a real effort to educate the residents of Hopkinton about the invasives that are on their property and what to do about it. I know I've seen like Hopkinton Lumber has made a real effort in the last couple of years to deal with knotweed on their site. It is a huge battle that we need to get our hands around it somehow, and it is not going to be pretty. I don't know what else to say. Thank you.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Ed.
hey, Melissa, this is Jim again. That's a great point, Ed. I think that the public education or information should be a huge part of this. And while this addresses right of way, or rights of way, it doesn't really address private property, interior property. So I agree with that 100%. Education is something that between the two of us, that is DPW and the Conservation Commission, we should try to really do a big job of that. Thank you.
Through the chair.
Yes.
Yeah, I also mentioned the Sustainable Green Committee did mention some of the same thing, awareness, education. They did ask, and I will do this, I haven't yet, is to put some of this information up on the DPW website. So at least you, the commissions, the committees have a place where they can steer people to. And then we'll look at, other education outreach efforts. Another thing they asked about was, all right, so once you treat these invasives and these weeds, making efforts that they don't come back. So like, how can we encourage native plantings and something like that? And I was saying how some of the other projects that we're working on that have been through this commission, like the Chestnut Street and the Hayden Row, which got continued. We're really looking at that of how to get rid of the invasives in the right of way and what we can do to, keep them away and maintain it early on so that we're not having this concern, because a lot of people are concerned of like, we don't want to just continue putting this pesticide year after year. And as Stephanie pointed out, the intent is to use less and less, and eventually weeds aren't there. And we replaced it with something that's stable, native, that's more sustainable.
Oh, that's good feedback. Yeah, definitely will take a village to tackle this stuff. All right, if there's no other comments from the commission, I'm gonna open it up to see if we have any public comment at this time. So I'll take public comment if there is any.
Can you hear me?
Yes, please just need your
Okay.
name and address. For
Yeah,
the-
hi, everyone. I'm Donald Sutherland. I'm at 205 Winter Street, resident of Hopkinton since 1998. Farmer. I've been in touch for 13 years with MDAR and the pesticide subcommittee as part of my career. And also, I'm chair of the environmental working group of the Hopkinton Sustainable Green Committee. And I'm here to make just a comment on this proposal. First off, I want to say that DPW has done all the due diligence of reaching out and followed the book on how to apply and follow code in terms of applying for this VMP and VOP. That said, I'd just like to make a quick statement from our group that the Environmental Working Group of the Sustainable Green Committee opposes the DPW application to MDAR for VMP and VOP as unsafe, ecologically harmful, unfettered use of pesticides, compounding the town's toxic chemical health risk. MDAR's VMP proposed objective to manage vegetation within the municipal rights of way under 333 CMR 11 in compliance with that will increase and not minimize the reliance on herbicides by the DPW's current safe vegetation management of utilities, roads, sidewalks, and trails. Unlike the current child health safeguarding by MDAR's school and daycare IPM toxic chemical use under 333 CMR 14, annual updated internet public posting identifying what pesticides are used at locations and their reasons for use are not required under an MDAR VMP or under the VOP, and 333 CMR 11, rights of way management. The DPW application for MDAR VMP and VOP will expand the scope and scale of pesticide use to replace mechanical vegetation management with toxic chemicals, not only in designated rights of way access areas, but to those areas designated by DPW for common area. This is a blanket approval to expand the contamination of the community with toxic pesticides anywhere the DPW designates ROW. Hopkinton's ecological sensitive areas will not be protected from toxic harm under the proposed YOP, which relies on the pesticides industry health and safety misrepresentation of current registered pesticides. To give an example of that pesticide that's misrepresented, glyphosate is one of the ones that DEP is permitting under the VMP, and that is a designated carcinogen by the World Health Organization, and but not by the EPA or DEP. And basically, we're saying that if the current vegetation management plan isn't broken, there's no warrant to usher in a toxic chemical health threat to our town. Carrie's right. She has more expansive need for this, for management as the town expands. But she also mentions that she could handle it under mechanical if she had the budget.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Does anyone else from the public have comments that they'd like to share?
I would, if that's okay.
Yep.
Carol Essler, 16 Oakhurst, also on Sustainable Green Board and the Environmental Committee. Again, we oppose this. It is a document that opens the door to more toxic use in the community, more getting on the toxic treadmill of using these substances over and over again when other options could be made available. And intent with, we'd like to make this less in the future. What this is a way to bring in more use of toxics into the community. And we already have some plans in place. I think this is a door opening rather than allowing the restrictions already in place for daycares and schools to be the guidelines. And, I have to be amazed as we commit biocide in the community. We celebrate our new pollinator gardens while approving the very substances that kill pollinators. We need to be looking at a larger picture, a picture of biodiversity, a picture of human health, and this is a step in the wrong direction. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to provide comment on the plan? No. Anyone else from the commission to circle back?
Through the chair, this is Ed.
Yes, Ed.
With respect in particular to knotweed, the spread of knotweed has been exacerbated by mechanical cutting without cleaning up the residue from the small pieces of knotweed, which readily, and I am sorry, I'm not a biologist, so I can't use all the fancy words, but the small bits of knotweed pretty readily reroot and aid the spread. And we can look at the stands that I'm most familiar with along Spring Street and how they have expanded over time. And the historic treatment has been come along and cut them down, but to do it, infrequently, and which leads to the residue resprouting and blah, 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 blah. It is a very difficult situation. And what we did at Whitehall, the first treatment was to cut the knotweed down close to the ground. All of the pieces were picked up and bagged and taken off site and hopefully disposed with appropriately, but I can get into that. And then the herbicide, I think glypho there, was squirted into the stock of each one. And we were told that this would be a minimum of 3 years to eradicate it. Dealing with this is a huge, huge problem. And if someone can come up with a solution that's better than what we're talking about, with particular, I'm talking with respect to knotweed, I would love to hear it. Thank you.
Thanks, Ed. You know, I'd agree that the commission, this is a, it's a tough spot because we, you know, are trying to balance different interests of protecting resources, environment from these invasives, and also have the shared interest of protecting the same resources and ourselves from herbicides and, you know, chemicals. So I think that, you know, DPW is, in my opinion, in looking at the plan, trying to balance those two as best they can with the budget that they have. And I think at this point in time, I look forward to working with DPW and getting that message out like we talked about before, and communicating to the public, and you know, hopefully tackling this issue in a comprehensive way. So I think at this point in time, this is a, can you just remind me, Carrie or Christina, did you say this was a 5-year plan where you're going for approval for?
There's correct. It's a 5-year
Okay.
plan, and I know the RDA generally is signed for 3 years, but there's an
Mhm.
exception specifically for MDR's approved 5-year plans, so that the RDA approval will run concurrently with the plan for the 5 years.
Okay.
But the annual plan needs to be updated annually, and MDR does open a public comment period for that every year and reviews it every year. And that's primarily because it does list the herbicides, and they do take herbicides on and off that list on a yearly basis. So that's why it needs to be reviewed every year, or part of the reasons why. But correct, the VMP itself runs 5 years with the RDA.
Okay, thank you. So definitely something we will keep our eye on going forward. So I think at this time, barring no other comments or questions,
Could I make one more comment?
yes.
Don Sutherland, 205 Winter Street, through the chair, the DPW proposed MDR's VMP and VOP is not in their budget, and would compound the community's expenditure to a documented process that is not transparent on the internet as the IPM. It is not an IPM, and it doesn't leave that review for the stakeholders to review on the internet as the current IPM that is in existence, protecting children and families. That's the issue, protection of children and families. In part on the safety issue, but on the expenditure, that doesn't account for the amount and estimated costs of pesticides and application fees. I mean, these costs aren't documented up front.
Right, I think if I'm hearing correctly, the commission at this point in time is looking to make a decision on the RDA, and that is, you know, kind of separate from the costs and how the DPW pays for it, is not part of our decision-making process, and how town's funds are spent. So I think for, you know, the what we're looking at, or what's within the purview of the Conservation Commission, it's really about the plan itself, not you know, how the town's spending their funds. That might be something that's more appropriate for comment through select board or town meeting, or however, where those budgets are reviewed. would be my thought on that. So with that, can I get a motion from a commission member for a negative determination on this request? And with that, would be signatures by Anna and Judy.
Through the chair, just real quick. I know, at least speaking for myself, I saw Joe's letter came in a couple of days ago. A response from CEI came in a couple of days ago. I haven't had a chance to look at either of those documents, so I'm not necessarily in a position to make a decision tonight personally. But
Okay.
if others feel differently,
Mm-hmm.
Melissa, it's Jim.
Yes, Jim.
The only thing about that, and I would say that I'd like some additional time too. But I think the problem is we can't continue an RDA. I believe that's true. If anybody else knows anything about it, but I thought we cannot continue an RDA. We could issue a negative or positive based on what we have right now. Anna, any?
Yeah, Anna or Judy, do you have any thoughts on that?
Through the chair, we have continued other RDAs a couple of times. So, I mean, I don't know the
I know we
exact
have.
rules, but
through the
I mean,
chair, my
I would
understanding
think
is
that it would be if the DPW is willing to,
Right.
you know, allow a continuation to have additional review time too. I think.
Right.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. Just
We do also have two commission members out today. Carrie, is this something that has a deadline to it, or is it something that you'd be willing to continue if the commission requests that?
Yeah, we're willing to continue if the commission requests it.
Okay. I think that is probably what we should do with two members out and a couple looking for a little more time. Okay.
do you need a motion to continue or?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do a motion, Jim.
All right, so I'll make a motion that we continue this hearing for an RDA for DPW until the next meeting, if that's what works.
Okay.
I'll second that.
All right. All in favor? Ed,
Aye.
Jim,
All right,
Ted,
Aye.
Matt,
aye.
and I will also give it an aye. All right. Thank you for accommodating that request, Carrie, Christine, and we'll see you at the next meeting.
There we go.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right.
All right.
And we have
Really quick.
and Judy 9 Chamberlain continued, but I should still open that
How
and
do
read
I
it, correct?
kill it?
Right.
Yes, please.
Make it go away.
All right, the Hopkinton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, January 7th, 2025 at 7 p.m. virtually online to hear all persons interested in a notice of intent filed by Alex and Lilia Flores to construct an addition and an in-ground pool with associated site work. Location 9 Chamberlain Street, Assessor's Map, U23, Block 11, Lot 0. 0 Chamberlain Street, Assessor's Map, U23, Block 12, Lot 0. Can I get a motion to continue this to the next hearing, January 28th?
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor, Ed,
Aye.
Jim,
aye,
Ted,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
and I am also an aye. All right, moving along to Heritage Properties, the trails at Legacy Farms, request for additional units to be released from the cease and desist. This is a continuation. So do we have Mr. Bemis, Mr. Gately on the call? I believe so.
Yeah, I'm here, and Mr. Gately, I believe, was going to attend.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I see him.
Here I am.
All right. You just want to go over briefly the additional information that you provided since the last meeting?
Sure. So we provided an updated BMP specification for the unit construction at Waterville Lane to make it more site-specific than the generic one that we had done. And we also included a new exhibit to outline some of the other improvements we made at the site regarding the detention basin number 3 and introduction of a new sediment basin for the construction of the 10 units. The 11th unit would actually be in the basin, so that wouldn't be constructed. That's unit 43 until all the other work was done. And this is in the center island, if you will, of Waterville Lane. So we showed the units where they're positioned, and then the basin. That basin's been constructed. I did provide a picture of it. There's no channels leading into it yet because nothing's started until you approve it. But we would bring a stone channel into the basin for the units. I would suspect I'd have one on the east side and one on the west side, probably for the units, just to bring water down from the construction limits to the basin. We were going to perforate. We did put a riser pipe in. We were going to perforate that and put stone around it. We actually have already put this basin into effect. We had a rainstorm which had pretty good volume, and the basin infiltrated within that zone. So we're going to leave it and monitor it and see how it goes. I'd rather infiltrate as much water as I can here versus having it run off. Excuse me. That pipe would overflow its top if it was to be an excessive storm. So we do have the ability to manage this if we get a real heavy storm. But I have to say the capacity of that basin is pretty large, much larger than the water that should be generated in this island of land that we're now going to disturb. So we're trying to put things in the right direction here. And this is all stabilized within the basin limits. And the last thing that we provided you with was a construction schedule that was updated to outline the 3 units we're asking you for this evening. So we would anticipate a construction start on those, in the next 3 weeks. There would be a construction start for those. And then we would be finishing our pump station, sewer pump station, that is probably about a week and a half out. We've got some gas mains that are going in. They're probably about a week and a half out. And then we would be back to you in mid-February for the next release, if we can get those 3 foundations underway as we expect.
Okay.
That's all within the same island. And then there'll be a future request sometime in April for 4 more units. And by April, we would expect to have the ability to start stabilizing some of these areas permanently.
Okay. Thank you for providing that detail. And I believe you got all the SWIP reports are in, and Judy and
Yep.
Anna, you said that in that last rainstorm, there weren't any silty discharges coming from the site.
Right.
Correct.
Looked good.
Yeah, Basin 3 is shut off again. Like I said, we should have just done that for that previous storm, but it wasn't done, so it is now.
Okay. Judy, can you just put up the BMP sequence schedule? What are we calling specification, construction specification? So I was reading through this, and I think that this construction specification here and the level of detail in here is really, you know, great, and kind of is what I was thinking of as far as scheduling and making sure that these things were in place when foundations were done, putting down, you know, stump grindings and stone and things like this. So I think at this point in time, and I'll just speak for myself, but I'm comfortable with releasing the next 3 lots, and including, you know, the schedule. But in my mind, the schedule incorporates, you know, this BMP specification. Those 2 documents kind of work together and live together, as far as sequencing and scheduling of how these lots are constructed and brought online before, you know, you would go to a next phase. So I would, you know, basically my thought would be, we could release these lots on the condition that the schedules followed, including these construction BMP specifications as part of that scheduling sequence. Does anyone on the commission have anything that they want to add or comment on here?
I can speak to that. We had a hearing back December 23rd, which was roughly a week or so after the last hearing with this board. And they, at that meeting on the 23rd of December, did release these same 3 units that we're talking about here. And of course, their approval was conditioned on getting the same approval by this commission tonight.
Okay. All right. Anyone from the public have any comments? Anyone else on the call? Okay. With that being said, I'll just go ahead and put it to a vote. If I can get a motion to release these 3 lots on the condition that the schedule, including this BMP sequencing, you know, be a condition of that approval.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor, Ed,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Ted,
Ted is an aye.
Matt,
Aye.
and I am also an aye. So thank you for getting those last pieces in
Thank you.
and working
Great.
to get the site all squared away.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
All right, next up we have Toll Brothers, Elmwood Farms 3, Newberry Glen violation discussion. Anna and Judy, do you want to give some background on this one?
Sure. Yep. So Hannah and I, on December 30th, observed sediment beyond the limit of work originating from the Elmwood Farms 3 development. I know, again. Observed the sediment in the 2 off-site stormwater basins on Blueberry. And then walking up onto the development, saw sediment-laden water pooling around one of the catch basins towards the middle of Fitch. Let me see I can pull my pictures up. So the basins were silted out. The contractors had placed a sort of temporary barrier at the outlet of the first basin to try to limit some of that water flowing out. But since the hole where the pipe is in the outlet, there's gaps around it, it doesn't work super well. So water's still kind of flowing freely through there. And this is sort of the flooded area around the catch basin. So there is, you know, a silt sack, but I think the silt is so fine that it's going through there. We did meet Rich on the site, and they had a lot of the same thoughts on, you know, this pooling causing the downstream sedimentation. So they did since then add wattle and silt fence in 100 feet in both directions of this catch basin. We went out a couple days later after the New Year's Eve rain and didn't see any of this pooling. The basins were still super silty, but the water coming into them was clear at that point. But we did walk about a mile downstream and did observe sediment beyond what we would consider the stormwater system. So past the basins, all the way back through under Ash Street and then behind Carriage Hill Road for about a mile. All still silty through last Thursday. So I believe Rich and Ted were planning some other mitigation besides the wattle and the silt fence. I think they added float locks to some of the catch basins and are considering a temp basin as well, but I believe they're on the call if they want to speak to some of those additional improvements.
Thanks, Judy. Rich Kirby from LEC here, and of course, Ted Merchant's on the line. If I could share my screen, I could sort of overview with the commission the materials that we had provided to you. I was on the site the morning of the 30th when Judy and Abby showed up, and I was on the phone with Ted talking about how we can better address the runoff. If the commission recalls, we had installed silt fence and compost socks along the edge of the pavement here, increased the diversion swale, did some other things as a result of the prior rain where we had about 2 inches of rain. This is about a 1-inch storm. And we thought we had it covered, but there's a slight low point in the pavement here with these two catch basins where water was ponding. So later that day, I had put together a correction plan, and it was implemented later that day and on December 31st. And this is the results of what we had done. So basically we added flock logs to the catch basins in this area here. We installed the compost sock and silt fence along the pavement edge and cleaned up the sediment on the pavement. And that's really to capture any runoff that's coming off the hillside in this area. We also added stone to a small gully that was forming along the erosion controls here. And that was done, you know, within 12 to 24 hours of the morning of the 30th. Longer term, we plan on installing a temporary basin in this area here. We're going to add straw and have added straw. I'll get to that in a moment to expose subgrade soils. We modified this diversion swale to get more water to go into this temporary basin. And we added sandbags to block the lower stormwater control outlet that's for the offsite basin here. So some photographs to show you what that means. Here's where the pavement was cleaned up. For reference, you can see the pile of stone near the pavement right there. This is where the water was coming off the hillside and entering into the pavement and ponding in this low spot when there's a catch basin here and another one across the street. The silt fence and compost socks were installed. As the street rounds to the north and to intercept Blueberry Lane. Stone check dams were installed intermittently to again slow the water and try and capture some sediment. And this is the off-site basin on the 31st, and they blocked off this orifice and with sandbags and plywood, so this would rise, the water level could rise up and it could contain and retain more stormwater on the site. And you can see the stormwater cleared out pretty quickly after the rain stopped. Can everybody see the plan now? Okay. This is the plan that's put together showing areas that were where seed, straw, and tackifier and flocculant was added. The green areas are indicative of areas that have been complete. The yellow areas are scheduled. Hydrograss can only, it's sort of a balancing act between having frozen ground conditions where the equipment can drive over the land to access these areas to spray. But it being warm enough so that they can actually spray it and that the water doesn't freeze, so they're able to actually implement it. But so far, the slope over by the stormwater basin, the offsite stormwater basin, that's been sprayed and stabilized. These two lots here have been sprayed and stabilized along with the roadway shoulder. These two lots are under construction or will be excavated next week. So we got the roadway edge here and this area adjacent to the loam pile. This is where the two catch basins are. And then the opposite end, the southern end, you can see what we were able to spray along the roadway edge here, and then more will be provided in this area. So I think Ted is on the line, and Ted, you had indicated that was early next week that they were going to get out there, or later this week. I think it would depend somewhat on the temperatures.
Yeah, it sounds like weather is not going to allow it until early next week, but that's the current plan with Hydrograss.
Right. Well, that's good news because we really don't have much rain in the forecast really for the next 10 days, it seems. So that'll give an opportunity for us to further stabilize the site. And of course, the plan going forward is as additional lots are opened up and the topsoil is stripped and stockpiled, those would also be sprayed with the same mixture of seed, straw, tackifier, and flocculant. So we are more confident now with this plan and the things that we've implemented thus far based on, what we saw after the roughly 1 inch of rain that prompted the violation.
Okay.
And if I can just chime in also, I'd like to say that we realize that, the evidence and some of the pictures that Judy showed are not acceptable, and we're committed to correcting those issues, and we'll work as much as we need to get it complete. So we realize that that's not what the town wants to see, certainly not what we want to see, and we'll get it until we get it right.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that and share that sentiment for sure. Appreciate the efforts. I know that so there were two rain events. One, that caused the pictures that were shown, I believe, and then there was another day of rain, I think, maybe after you had installed some of these measures, and I think it did improve. There was still sediment making its way downstream, but as Judy had said, coming off the site, it was cleaner. Or it was clean. So I appreciate and thank you for taking care of that, because it seems like you did, as evidence of that second rain event, take care of what was coming off of your site. So I think that's very appreciated and positive. I'm a little bit concerned that there's still sediment that even if it's not coming from your site, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, Rich or Ted, that if it's still making its way down the stream mile away, it originally was on your site and that's still a problem. Do you have any thoughts on resuspending sediment that's now in the basin downstream of your site?
Yeah, it's a valid concern, and I think that's what happened on the second rain event that we had. The water coming off the site was clean, but the velocity of the water was churning up some of the sediment that had been deposited in the basin. We again blocked the orifice of that offsite basin, so the water has to rise about another 2 feet, 1.5 feet, 2 feet before it'll overtop. The outlet structure in the back of the basin where some of the grout had given way when it was installed, that'll be repaired as soon as conditions allow.
I'm told that
That'll
it
help.
was repaired, and we'll see whether that's functional or not, but I'm told that it has been completed.
That was repaired, Ted? Oh, that's great news. Okay. So that I think that will help slow the water down, and especially at that low point, the sediment will drop out before it overtops that that sort of level spreader that's above the orifice that was blocked. I think also the flocculant, as that dissolves and gets into the system too, that's also going to help. The flocculant getting into the to the water column and keeping the sediment from, or helping to keep the sediment not get resuspended into the water column. But we're gonna, as soon as we get any amount of rain, I think, any meaningful amount of rain that's going to result in some runoff, 1/10 of an inch, 0.15, 0.2, Ted and I are going to be out there to take a look at it.
Okay. And can you just remind me, I know that Toll Brothers doesn't own those basins off of Blueberry. Is that did we ever establish if that's the town, those basins belong to the town, or some other association or homeowner on Blueberry? For long
My understanding is that the town is responsible for the maintenance of them. However, the primary basin, we have a permit to modify, and at least in my opinion, or how I think of it, we need to continue to maintain it through the completion of our project. So any sort of maintenance within there while this project's going on, in my opinion, is ours.
Okay. So as far as, as you go through the process of developing the site and leaving, everything clean and done at the end, would you anticipate, getting that sediment out so that's not left in the basin to resuspend into the future?
I think it's worth it's really hard to evaluate right now because it's frozen.
It's frozen.
But once we're able to sort of see what it's like in there, we can evaluate whether that needs to happen or not. And I'll rely on Rich, and we can probably get together with Judy and Anna and discuss whether that's necessary or not.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's the only thing, or that's the thing that I would just, keep in mind going forward, or that I would look for as the project continues and the weather makes that possible to evaluate a little farther. I'm going to open it up to other commission members. I also see Carrie still on the line from the town, if there's anything on her end that wanted to bring up.
Well, Melissa, this is Jim. I think I'll go first.
Sure. Okay.
Given the number of enforcement actions and violations and runoff and stormwater issues on so many projects in town, I can't even say I'm shocked anymore. But I do not understand why site developers, builders, engineers are not more proactive in these things, and everything seems to be reactive, as if is if nobody's thinking about it. So I'm very disappointed again. And frankly, I'm inclined to have them make everything's right before they do anything else when it comes to stormwater.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Thanks, Jim.
This is Ed, and I don't have to say anything because Jim said everything I was going to say. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I think the tool in our pocket there is we've used in other development projects is the cease and desist on foundation permits, is what that translates to. And this commission definitely has used that as evidence in the last discussion item.
Yeah, we have, and for good reason, and I think it's good reason here. And by the way, just for some reference, I've done a lot of site work. I've been out of the business a long time, engineering and site work, and I would never be able to get away with this. There was something like this.
Yep. We have any
So
other...
is there going to be discussion of whether it's a cease and desist or some other kind of hold on this until they get things in order?
I think we can have that discussion, Jim. I think the question is, so what was presented just now, their plan of action with the establishing the seating and the sequencing of the lots there, that has all been completed other than the seating that you said needs to be done at the beginning of the week pending the weather, correct?
That's correct.
That's correct.
And then my other concern was just about the existing sediment in the basins, going forward, which again, we're frozen right now. So Jim, I think the discussion on that point, and we can certainly have it, is with these new measures that were put into place, are we comfortable letting them continue knowing that they made improvements since this last violation, and them being on notice? Because I don't know if there's much more they can do because of the weather at this point in time.
Listen, I think some of what I heard was, we've done this, we can do this additionally, but we don't really know until we get some significant event. We don't really know whether this is going to be adequate or not. Is that what I heard?
I think, well, just from having been out there and walked the site myself, what I meant when I was talking about between those two rain events, they implemented changes, and I could definitely see that as Judy had said, the water coming off the site after they implemented these most recent changes was clear. So I would say there's evidence that they made the improvements that they needed for the site at this point in time. That was a decent storm. However, my concern was, the stuff that gets resuspended. That's what we were seeing, is the stuff that was already in the basin getting resuspended, and that's still a violation in my mind.
Right.
I believe, well, in anybody's mind, I think that, per the bylaw, that's still a violation because it, started on their site. Now, just because it exists in this other basin, it's still Toll Brothers violation. So whenever that gets resuspended downstream, even if the water is clean coming off their site, once it hits that sediment, it's going to be another violation. And I think once it's frozen right now, so it's not going to happen, but once it does rain, and that's where we're going to have our next hiccup, I think. And would like to get that taken care of before it becomes another violation, I think is what you're getting at, Jim.
One of the things that we were discussing was installing flock logs at that outlet control structure
Mhm.
in the pipe that exits the structure. If we can get some flock logs installed in that, I think that would help alleviate some of the turbidity downstream. It does take some time for the flocculant to work. But I think that by the time it reaches the second sediment basin, the grass one that's next to the house there, I think by that time the flocculant should be working better, and hopefully that will alleviate some of the deposition, or turbidity in the downstream resources, because we have a sediment basin with a drainage ditch to another sediment basin, then it goes through some pipes and then eventually discharges into some wetlands. And Ted, I don't know what your thoughts are, but maybe even on that downstream grass swale or the downstream grass basin, installing a couple of flock logs and over the flowing water in there too might be an option.
Those basins, there are dry periods too, or you could pool that set it, because the flock is going to sit at the bottom. Once it settles it out, it's just going to sit in the bottom of the basin, right?
Yeah, that's generally how it works.
So I think once the weather permits, it should be part of the plan to get that out of there, the sediment out, rather than chase it downstream.
Yeah, Melissa, I think we can certainly commit to doing that. I think it's probably worth evaluating in the field with LEC and town staff to make sure that that's the prudent action. But assuming that we decide that it is, I have no issue in doing that.
Okay. How do you feel, Jim?
That's a really tough question, how I feel.
I know.
I guess it all depends on what we're going to be voting on.
I think I don't think we vote on anything
Quick
for this.
quick item on my end.
Yep.
I mean, all these down gradient measures are great. I think we're talking and thinking about the right things here, but I don't think there's enough thought and appreciation being put into the control of the source. Right? We're talking about seeding in January. That's not going to do anything. We're not going to get any growth until April, May. So when it starts to warm up and we get the mud season and there's seed down, great. It's all just going to wash away, or it's going to get, or it's going to just get pushed elsewhere. We should be thinking more about appropriate winter control measures, not spring, summer, fall control measures. And I didn't hear much of that today, so I'm a little dissatisfied that these temporary stabilization measures on each of these sites aren't really appropriate for the time of year we're talking about. And seeding will be great in the spring, not great in the winter.
Well, I can appreciate that. The hydrograsses, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ted, but they're applying a mixture of straw, tackifier, flocculant, and seed.
That's correct, Rich. Do you have any of those pictures? Because we used a pretty ample amount of straw in that application.
Yeah. While we're talking here, I'll see if I can get those up.
While you're looking at that, I'll say that's a great point, Matt, and that's sort of part of being reactive and being downstream and not really addressing what's upstream and what's causing it.
I think those are on my phone.
Well, sorry guys, if we don't have pictures to show, but I think the point is we are trying to address the source now. And granted, it is not a great season to be addressing the source, but we're using, you know, the methods that we think are appropriate at this time of year to try to get water slowed down, to try to cut down the erosion at the top of the site, and hopefully address, you know, as it enters the system.
Okay. Do we know, on the plan you had up for the recent work that was done, the lots with the different seating and foundations, how many, I don't know if you can bring that back up.
Yep.
Rich, I was just curious how many lots you have foundation permits for.
I don't know that answer off the top of my head, Melissa. I think the number is somewhere around 6, but I don't know that for sure. But we have not started 6.
This one's under construction, and that one's to be excavated next week.
Through the chair. Richard, Ted, can you refresh my memory? These other lots where work's not occurring, what's the current condition of the ground?
So the ones that we're looking at now, the 2 green lots are temporarily graded, and they have seed and straw placed on them recently. Of the 2 orange lots, one has a foundation dug, the walls are poured but not backfilled yet, and we call it top of the screen foundation is not yet dug but will be dug next week. The lots on the right hand side, the cellar holes are dug. However, the remaining portions of the lot remain loamed and not stripped to try and mitigate any runoff issue. So the right hand side of the paper have actually reacted fairly well to the storms, and we haven't seen any kind of sedimentation on the right hand side. It's all sort of on the left hand or the upper side of the site.
I've got a question. So, Melissa, can you put that map back up? That plan?
Sure. Sorry, I'm trying to share the photos, but I'll put the map back up.
Okay. Just, I guess, 2 quick questions. One is the lot that you said is scheduled to be excavated. What's the condition of that now? Has it all been cleared and grubbed?
Yes.
And not stabilized in any other way. And then also, I can't really see on the plan that I'm looking at, but can you just give me, what's the elevation difference between the top of foundation and the existing grade, roughly?
Oh boy, I'm not sure that information's on this plan, but we can look. Oh yeah, actually it is.
I mean, we're talking a foot, or we're talking 10 feet?
Well, there's only one foundation in the ground, and that foundation hasn't been backfilled yet. So, I mean, in a finished condition, yeah, that's maybe a foot or a 2 foot difference.
I guess what I'm thinking about is that excavation of that parcel without knowing how things are going to, take place in a significant storm event. The houses on the right side, the ones that have developed, you said that you've left what in place? The native, the original vegetation? So those haven't been grubbed or what?
So they've been grubbed, but the loam has not been stripped off of those lots.
Okay. But on the one scheduled to be excavated, it has been.
Correct. The ones on the left-hand side were cut lots, and the ones on the right-hand side were fill lots.
Okay.
And the grades have a tendency to push runoff toward the street and to the north.
Yeah.
So we have, good sediment control on this side of the pavement now. And I have some photographs of what this area looks like here, just as an example.
Okay.
If you'd like to see them, I'll stop share and reshare.
Yep.
Let's try this. I'm on a network, so things are a little slow here. I'm just getting the hourglass waiting for the photo to.
Judy, you don't have those photos, do you?
No, I don't believe so. My most recent pictures are from the second.
Okay.
Just bear with me. Yeah, these are they're 10 and 12 megabyte photos, and I'm on a network, so it's struggling to open them up. But it's a significant amount of material that's on the ground. It's not just a sprinkling of straw. It's a significant amount.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Did the image there you go. Did you see the image now?
Yes.
All right. So that's toward the sort of swale that you see is the perimeter drain on the western side and northern side, and then rounding to the western side. The school is on the other side of the tree line there. Here's another image. This is Fitch Avenue here, with the straw. This is the temporary basin with the stone overflow that would direct overflow water to the perimeter drain. And here's one of the lot signs. I think that's the first lot sign, and then this straw continues up. Here's another one. Oh no, that's that's closer to the street. With the house next door there. So you can tell it's a pretty significant amount of material that's been put down. And while I agree we're not going to get any seed germination, certainly the straw, and when we do get some rain, that will activate the tackifier and the flocculant that was applied to these areas.
Yeah, through the chair. Yeah, I mean, the picture's worth 1,000 words, right? So, Rich, this is definitely helpful to give me a better appreciation as to what's been done out there, not having had an opportunity to see it in person. So, when you say seed, this is not the image I have in my head when I hear you say seed. So this is helpful.
Yeah, there's a significant amount, and in fact, Hydrograss did as much as they could before running out of material, but they were unable to resupply in time before the cold snap. So, early next week, daytime temperatures are supposed to be above freezing. So I'm just looking at weather underground now. Even Friday, daytime temperatures are 38, Monday, 37. So there's a window of opportunity Friday and Monday before things get cold again.
Great. Through the chair, Rich,
Yep.
I see it looks like it's Stone Check Dam on the left-hand side of this picture you have on the screen.
That's correct.
Do those check dams continue along the backside of the silt fence and straw wattle?
Yes, there's another one up here. I think
Kinda
there's
north on the-
maybe 5 or 6 of them along this. We were finding that even after we installed this, that we were getting some gullying of rainwater. You know, it would hit the silt fence and then start running down gradient. So we have these the stone check dams in place to help slow that down, and we did observe that that's working. You see the sediment accumulating behind the check dams.
Great.
And Matt, there's also a cutoff trench, maybe call it 30 feet into the lot that takes all the water from these lots into this temporary sediment basin as well. So the check dams you see sort of take care of the leftovers, if you will.
Right. So all of the water, it's hard to tell a bit in this photograph, but where my arrow is, there's a temporary diversion swale that also has stone check dams in it. It's probably 150 feet long, that discharges or directs some of the stormwater runoff into this temporary basin. And then we have the riprap overflow that would direct overflow from this basin into the perimeter drain.
Great. In terms of orientation, if you can just help me out here. Obviously the road's on the left. Are we looking up gradient or are we looking down gradient?
We're looking up gradient.
Well,
So if
okay.
I'll stop sharing and share the plan again and show you where the photograph was taken from. So that photograph was taken standing, let's see, probably right in this vicinity, looking in this direction. So standing here, looking in this direction, and this is sort of the field of view that you would have.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, so thanks for bringing those up, Rich, the pictures. You know, as we mentioned, I think the commission is not opposed to, doesn't have any hesitation with, you know, working with the building department on foundation permits and limiting those if sites are not out of compliance or having repeat issues. So obviously we take it really seriously. You guys know that. I do feel like there was a significant effort put forth here to stabilize the site at this point. So, you know, I think I'm feeling comfortable. I just, again, would reiterate in what Jim said about being proactive with those basins, the sediment in there getting resuspended. So regardless of how tight your site is, just really paying attention to the weather, those basins, and taking care of that sediment, working with the staff to proactively manage what's already made its way off your site. Because I think as a commission, you know, that would be the next thing in my mind beyond your site that we'd have to start talking about, you know, enforcement action by the commission. And that would consist of, you know, holding up building foundations going forward.
Yeah, and with the sediment being so fine, you know, a little goes a long way in terms of those photographs. You know, literally and figuratively, right? A little goes a long way, but in terms of making the water appear as cloudy as it looks, but also, of course, staying suspended for a good distance. You know, oftentimes, you know, with coarser material, you'll have measurable sediment deposition within a stream channel or within a wetland. I don't think that's the case here. It's just that we have, you know, turbid water flowing off the site. So.
Yep. Anyone else have any last thoughts? Again, I don't think there's anything to vote on here.
Through the chair.
Yeah, Jody.
If Rich or Ted, you could send us any info on the work done on the outlet pipe. I hadn't heard about that before tonight. That would be much appreciated.
Sure. Yes, we'll Ted, I can talk with you about when Fenton sort of regrouted that around that outlet pipe. And we'll send you these photographs that we have too of the stabilization.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Through the chair, this is Ed.
Yes, Ed.
You have to forgive me my faulty memory, but I know that we've had several instances with projects by this group in town. I'm curious if anyone knows how many problems we've had of things running off of their site that were not as we would like.
I do not have that tally
That's a great thing to find out, Ed.
at my fingertips, but
Through the
I'm sure. Yep.
Um,
Go ahead, Judy.
I'm seeing 3 in our folder from this year, 2 of which were the 2 in December. Not sure.
From
if
this site, though, you're saying? Okay, I think Ed's referring to Chamberlain Whalen.
Oh, apologies.
Yeah, both.
Yeah.
But thanks for pointing out that there's already 3 here.
So, right. I think that's something that, yeah, Judy could look at if it comes up. Hopefully, we don't have another reason to come back for violations here, but it's a piece of information we could look for if it happens for next time. So, okay. I think I'm good. Thank you for jumping on that quickly, and we'll look forward to seeing the rest of it go down the end of the week, beginning of next week, and hopefully that's the end of it.
Yep, we'll keep the commission posted through Anna and Judy as well as we get through, additional work, upcoming rain events, etc. And again, Anna, Judy, happy to meet you out there anytime you like. It's serendipitous that we were out there at the same time. Certainly interested in the same things, but happy to continue to meet you out there.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks everyone. Have a good night.
Yep, you too. All right. So next up on the agenda, we have the 2024 Draft Commission Annual Report and Goals discussion. Anna or Judy, did you want to go through just a brief overview of what you drafted up?
Through the chair, may I interrupt really quickly?
Yes, is your cleaning guy knocking?
I am getting the signal, but I did read through this draft, and Anna and Judy, I don't know who is the primary author, but I thought it was fantastic, and I thank you for your work.
Thanks, Ted.
But I gotta go.
Okay.
I'm coming. See you next time, everybody. Sorry I had to skip out early.
It's okay. Thanks, Ted.
Y'all can mostly thank probably Kim. I recycled a lot of this. Some small tweaks though. Yeah, so have an overview of work that the Concom did this year. Numbers of applications processed, minor project exemptions, work that staff did working with other boards, town departments, some pictures of Anna looking at silt from Elmwood Farms. This is Kim looking at the culvert by Whisper Way. Information on how often we meet, other boards that y'all serve on, major projects reviewed this year, turkeys from Turkey Ridge, just kind of basics on the scope of the commission, resources we protect, work with DPW, paragraph on, these are kind of general goals, since I don't believe there was sort of a goal setting initiative for 2024. So we can sort of swap these out as we update and have new ideas for goals. This is some information on trainings that staff and commission members have done. Got some pictures of wetland replications at Whisper Way, updates on Jeffrey Barnes leaving, Melissa becoming the new chair, welcoming Heather, thanking Kim and welcoming myself, and then links to more information. So kind of broad brush what we do, what we focused on this year. So if anybody has any suggestions, definitely happy to hear them.
No, I thought it looks really good. I like the pictures that you put in there of the wetland replication area, like the before and after. I think that's really cool. Pictures. Are you sure you want to put the commission phone number in there to contact with any? I'm just
Well,
kidding.
that is the land use department strategic.
Oh, okay. Okay.
There's a couple of levels before it gets to us.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. No, I think it looks pretty good. One thing just for the others on the call, I talked to Anna and Judy about as far as 2025 goals, just working on those over the next month or two to establish them, and then those would be recorded in next year's annual report. If we establish, the things we've been talking about public education and working on a couple things over the years. So we still want to do that, but just not putting it in this because it's the 2024 report versus, what we'd be looking at in the upcoming year. If that makes sense. But yeah.
Yeah, and if anyone has feedback after tonight, always feel free to reach out to me or Anna.
Okay. I think is it due the end of the month? Is that when they're looking for it?
Yeah, it's due before our next meeting. That's why we had it on this meeting.
Okay.
So
Yeah, no, it's good.
Through the chair, this is Ed.
Hey, yeah. Yep.
Former commissioner chair. Should it be former commission chair?
Yeah, I think you're right.
I'm sorry, my mother had a master's in Shakespeare. Sometimes these things jump out at me.
You might even be able to take out the whole word, right? Because otherwise you have commission in there pretty repetitively.
Yes, can do.
Okay. Okay.
I'll make one suggestion, Judy. Because this, like Ed, some things just jump out at you. On the second page, it may be worth sliding that picture with all the lovely turkeys down a bit so your bullet lines all just extend out on a single line. Might just look a little more organized.
Yeah, I can definitely do that. Yeah, I think it gets.
That's my OCD screaming at me.
No, now I'm not able to ignore it. I think it'll get schlepped into the rest of the annual reports. So I can't promise the formatting will stay nice, but I can shift this down.
I was gonna say at one point I was editing it and I was like, damn you Word, Judy, take over.
Yeah, as soon as you drop a few pictures in, word can be a little finicky.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, but great work. I would definitely appreciate uh, the effort you both put in pulling this together.
Well, y'all did all the awesome stuff in this, so thank you.
Through the chair, this is Ed. Maybe I could borrow you two to write the report for open space.
That's on Shannon.
I was gonna say that isn't that Shannon's job, Ed?
Well, I'm looking at this and I'm again, I thought it was too much of it was my job and I was trying to palm it off. Got some experts here, better than me.
Delegate, Ed. That's my advice to you. Yeah, no, you guys did a great job. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Yeah, so I guess if anybody has any comments on that or it thinks of anything else, maybe by the end of next week is a good time frame. Yeah. Okay. Any public forum requests? I don't think so, right? Okay. And I think it's the January 28th meeting. I think Heather had emailed me that she's going to be out of town for that one.
Correct.
Yeah,
That's what I
okay.
have.
So I don't know if anybody else has any conflicts, but that's all I have on my radar right now.
One quick thing that we may want to look into ahead of the 28th.
Yep.
I believe under the regular Wetlands Protection Act, an RDA determination is only valid for 3 years. So something we may want to just confirm one way or the other ahead of next meeting's discussions.
That in relation to the vegetation plan and how they were kind of automatically assuming it would be 5. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she referenced an exemption, which we can look at. And I know that there is certain ones for like the for orders for 5 years
Yeah.
versus the 3, but you're right, man. I
Yeah.
don't know off the top of my head for RDAs.
The exemption I'm familiar with for the right of way has to do with the resource areas. There could be another one, but I think that the exemption for a duration is tied to the resource areas and not necessarily the activities. But just worth maybe wrapping our heads around beforehand.
Yeah, it's a good one. All right. Then nobody has anything else. I'll ask for a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
To adjourn? You mean? You mean to adjourn?
Adjourn.
You said
Yeah. Close. Adjourn. Yeah,
go
adjourn.
ahead, Matt.
Also moved to adjourn.
In favor.
I'll
Ed.
second. I'll second. Nope, I'll second.
All right. Ed,
Aye.
Jim,
Yes.
Ted. Oh, Ted's not here anymore. Matt.
Aye.
And I'm also an aye. All right. Thank you.
Have a good night,
Thanks, y'all.
everybody.
Yep.
See you soon. Bye now.
Night.